It said rotate your phone.
What?
You can't turn your phone while recording. Oh yeah, we gotta do it again.
Do what?
It's gotta be rotated.
I don't understand.
Yeah, hit the
Finish?
Yeah.
Cancel?
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, Dr. Baruch.
No problem.
Delete.
Yeah. Hey, YouTube. We are getting started in just a quick second. Just go back and do it again, because it had, yeah. Yeah, and post, and publish.
Okay. Is it gonna turn again?
Let's see.
Live.
Yeah, see, it's the rotate it once and then bring it back. Just flip it. And then flip it back and see if that, yeah.
Like that?
Does that do it? Should have done it.
Yeah.
Should.
You wanna try?
Okay.
Thank you.
Alright, some wire must have gotten hit over here. Okay. Alright, Midge, and hold on 1 second. 3, 2.
Welcome to another edition of the Empower Hour. I am Al Kumar.
And I'm Hanifa.
And we are right back at you as we always do each and every Wednesday from 2 to 3 p.m. right here live on the eLife Media Studio platform. Today's topic is debt slavery.
Yeah.
And we have once again
Yes.
one of our favorite
Yes.
scholars in the studio with us, Brother Imhotep Fatiu, Baltimore's own. Thank you again for joining us.
No, thank you for having me.
Yeah, you're such a wealth of knowledge and information that you just pull on for all different types of subjects and of the so. And this is no different.
Right.
We'll see.
Yeah, and we thought you would be a good fit because you guys in the Baltimore area, your organization, a lot of different hands, a lot of different as it relates to businesses.
Yes.
And so when the topic of debt slavery came up, we thought Imhotep would be ideal to kind of discuss this because I think you come from a whole different realm and mind state of the mainstream as it relates to business.
Yes, I do.
Okay. So welcome to the program.
Yes.
And okay, is there something that you wanted to start off with before we hit you with a whole bunch of questions?
I would start off by saying that debt is a necessary function of capitalism.
Okay.
It's a necessary function of capitalism, and we are living within a capitalist economy. To understand that, so I believe that if we are going to be successful and effective at moving forward, we have to figure out ways that doesn't allow us to barrel too deep into the system. We have to figure out how to elude the system. Now, some may say, well, how can you do that and you live inside the system? It can be done. We just have to pour on our ancestral ways and trust and believe in the process.
Okay.
Thank you
Okay.
for that.
Thank you. Honeybee, you wanted to say something?
No, because he started off with sort of the direction I would have gone in anyway.
Okay.
Because we're in a capitalist society. How do we avoid this? But we
Yeah.
can start.
Yeah, this should really be an interesting
Yes, it should.
discussion. And with me doing the research, what I found out really is but in your mind, what is debt slavery?
I like to call it debt bondage.
Okay. Which is
So it's the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
What it is in one sense is a system designed to keep people constantly owing that doesn't allow you an opportunity to develop for yourself. That's my job. Let's just say you got a mother and it's just her, and let's say she's making $35,000 a year. Let's say she have 2 children. So she want to get back and forth to work. In most cases, we're going to go out and we're going to get a car that's going to have a car note to it, right? So that's right then and there you owe on that car. It starts there. And then we live in a society that tells everybody, purchase a house, buy your house. That's your greatest investment. So then you go out and you figure out how to go out and buy a house. I said, well, you got the program set up. You know, it's first time home buyers program. So I'm gonna go do that. You ain't gotta bring a lot of money, so you go in and you get this house. You're looking for this quote unquote great neighborhood to be in. So the house costs $150,000, whatever, something like that.
Right.
So you go get it because you do get the job. So now you own this car, which is you're in debt because you don't own the car. You know, so you didn't buy it right out. So you're paying this car note. Part go to the principal, part going to the interest. Now you have this house.
Right.
It's the same process. And so what happens is after paying all those bills, there's nothing left for you to build for yourself. So you just in this cycle. But this system teaches that the cycle is how we're supposed to function.
Yes.
It encourages us being paying your bills. It encourages paying your bills on time. It encourages you to owe. In most instances, no one will even give you anything unless they can see you owed already and you demonstrated that you can pay back.
Hence
Exactly.
a credit.
But you never figure out how to do for yourself. We have to, so I'm not telling people not to own cars or purchase homes and things like that. We have to figure some things out. So I have a black, I'm gonna say something, I have a black realtor that I deal with. And she's a woman. And she's beautiful. She's very sharp. And so what she said is this, she was explaining the difference between when black people buy houses and when white people buy houses. And she was explaining how white people end up with more property. And she said is this is what they do. They purchase a house, let's say $105,000 a year. They get the house, they have the mortgage, whatever it may be. But the goal is it's a 30-year mortgage. The goal is to pay that house off in 10 years.
Yes.
And you do that by making additional 4 payments a year.
Right.
Additional 4 payments a year at the end of the year is going to expedite that.
Correct.
And they pull collectively to achieve that. So now they have expedited the process. They took and knocked off the 20 years to down to 10. In some cases, less than that. But now they have acquired a property. Then in turn, they turn around and they leverage against another property. And they create a system. So the whole idea for them, the thinking is how to build up.
Yeah.
Whereas most of us is like how to just get in and maintain within
Yeah.
the owning system.
Agreed.
You know what I'm saying? It's two different mindsets.
Yeah, and not to mention that they build wealth a lot faster that way. If you're doing this in 10 years and when we looking at 30 and 40.
Right.
And then we refinance because we get into a situation and someone's telling us to refinance.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? You had your house for 6, 7 years, 8, 9, 10 years, something like that. Well, you know you can refinance and you can get this right here. So we'll refinance that home, trying to get a loan on the home because of the so-called this equity. You know what I'm saying? This invisible stuff that they talk to us about equity. You know what I'm saying? So you do the refinancing, so you can try to get the loan, and you further push it back. And there's a whole new loan that's been slapped onto it,
Correct.
right? And this is the type of mentality that we set up in. It's a bondage type of thing, but it's bondage with mobility.
Okay.
Explain that.
It's
Yeah.
bondage with mobility. The mobility is that I allow you to move fluently within my system without coming out of my system.
So you got a
feel
wider
like
cage.
Yeah.
You feel like you're progressing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, you're not progressing.
Right,
man.
you're like on a
It's just-
hamster wheel.
That's it, man. That's what's happening.
So why is this? Why is it that a certain group of people in this society have this information and are acting on it and we're not?
That goes back to a couple conversations we had on a couple shows back. Europeans know who they are. Regardless of all the lies they may tell within the world, at the end of the day, they know who they are. Right? We don't really know who we are, so therefore we can never act in our best interest. And when you don't know who you are, you don't know how to act in your best interest because you're disorientated. So our disorientation has become functional because we get awarded, and in some cases we get rewarded for being competently disorientated.
Yes.
Say that again.
Yes.
So like we get
We get awarded, in some cases we get rewarded for being competently disorientated.
Had another brother break it down. Like he said, we're arrogant in our ignorance.
Yes. That's
We
what's
think we know when we really don't. Wow.
so what I'm hearing a lot of is the normalization of a cycle,
Yes.
that cycle that we find ourselves in, to the point where we don't even think of purchasing outside of borrowing.
Yes.
It's almost like our minds can't even fathom it. Does some of that also have to do with patience, to where we're something, because we live in a society where we want everything right now, but the realities that you're getting, but it's not really yours, because if they can come and take it from you, it's not really yours. So does maybe having patience not having enough patience. It could be a need, like you say, a mom working a job and she needs to get to or from. She needs her car now, like not next month, like now. But there's a lot of that have to do with us maybe just having a little bit more patience and waiting things out.
Yes, patience is definitely a part of it, as well as our behaviors, our habits. And one of the things that I've been teaching lately in our study class, and I think it's missing in this society, particularly within our communities, is EY Pelly. It's like we don't place enough emphasis on character. We don't understand that how important our characters are. So therefore our characters is taken for granted. So we don't build the characters. We have a lot of bad behavior habits. And those habits jam us up. We have a lot of financial mismanagement due to indiscipline. It's like this, I tell people all the time, it's like just because you can purchase a thing doesn't necessarily mean you can afford that thing.
Right.
See, the purchasing it doesn't mean you can afford it, because you can purchase it to your own detriment.
Yeah.
And in most cases, that's what's happening, because within a capitalistic society, it's mandatory that you condition within the people a microwave mentality. So we have to have a microwave mentality, meaning we must think things are going to pop like this, and we want things like this. That's what capitalism does, because the greater it keep us thinking and moving like that, they benefit from it. I'll give an example. Like we got the vegan restaurant in Baltimore, and I'm just going to share this story.
Shout out to the Grill Factory.
The Grill Factory. So I'll share this story. So we got the Grill Factory, and the Grill Factory is doing pretty well. You know, has its challenges like any business. But what I will say is that the one overhead we don't have is a business loan. We did not open our business with a business loan at all. And I think, you know, it takes a lot of patience, it takes time, it takes discipline, because we have to save money. And we made that money by just selling dinners for over like a 4-year period of time.
Okay.
Look at them.
You know, just selling dinners over a 4-year period of time and vending at different places with the express purpose that nothing that we make is going to be spent. So people literally had to go out and do what? Sell, work, quote unquote, for free. If you think about it that way, right? But it's not for free. You're working for your future. See, this is a different way of thinking. Work for your future. So we've done that, and now we have the restaurant. Now we are able to hire all of our peoples. We didn't have to put out a business ad and bring anybody in. Everybody that work in that spot are our people. So now by producing the Grill Factory, we put 4 different family homes. 4 different families. So is it easy? No, it's not easy, because you still got your state taxes and you got all this stuff you got to do. But we do not have a business loan. We do not have anyone saying we owe them anything. You know, that's put that in there, and that's
Which means that you even have more, because here's the business loan, this is somebody else. Well, you don't have that overhead.
no, and that's the part that I'm saying. So what I said early on is we can do some things within this capitalistic system without trying to dig a hole deeper into it.
Got it.
But it's going to take a certain degree of discipline,
Discipline.
and you're going to have a level of understanding of our own cultural ways. So what we've done is nothing more than our ancestors was doing when they was dealing with just basic corporate economics for the most part, cooperatives and things like that.
Yeah.
And I'm a side note here, because a lot of us believe that the Europeans are the first person that dealt in, you know what I'm saying, the exchange of goods. A lot of people believe that this, they believe that this originated with Europeans, you know what I'm saying, the exchange of goods and stuff like that. If you go and do the research, you'll see that our ancestors was also dealing in currencies. We just didn't deal with this quote unquote paper dollar.
Right.
But when you read the book, How Europe Underdeveloped Africa by Walter Rodney, you'll see in his work, in his research, he demonstrates on basic levels African people dealing in the exchange of currencies and stuff like that. So the European did not originate that. What the Europeans originated, you see what I'm saying, was a dog eat system. That's what they originated. They originated a vampire system. Yes, capitalism. It's a vampire system. It's based on how they understand. It's based on them looking into nature but not understanding nature, and they think nature is about, you know what I'm saying, eat or be eaten. You know what I'm saying? They think it's about that. They think it's about survival of the fittest. So their economic system reflects survival of the fittest.
Yes.
That's what they have created. This is what they get credit for. We didn't create this. This is theirs. Right? Our way of doing business have always been a way that sought to enhance and elevate everybody in the community.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you talk about finding ways to still exist in the system, but find like little ways around it. And I think what you just explained, at least from my observation, I see it where our people begin to take that on, that
Yes.
personality, where I'm just like,
Yes.
this is just capitalism at its best, and
Yes.
it's ugly.
Yeah.
We don't call it for what it is, because at the end of the day, we're looking like we've acclimated and we've arrived,
Right.
and we're making it, we're doing what we're supposed to do in this capitalist society. But I'm glad that you mentioned that there are ways in how you can play the game
To
and not be
navigate.
sucked in.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. I go back to what you had mentioned about like making sacrifices for the future. Well, maybe not even necessarily a sacrifice. It's just working towards your future.
Yeah.
And why a lot of us don't do that. And I think what comes to mind is like instant gratification, like
Yeah.
the lottery system.
Yes.
And a lot of us will much rather put a lot of our money in a 1 in a million chance than taking that same resource and working it to where it's a guaranteed return if you just did some things different with that money.
That's true. But it goes back to capitalism. Capitalism has to cast illusions. It has to cast illusions. Something about it is an illusion. Like I get like a great example. Like everybody thinking and believing that they're going to be rich, and everybody's out here trying to be rich. That is an illusion. That cannot and will not happen
Right.
ever.
Yeah.
That is a grand illusion. But everybody is attempting to become rich. It will not happen.
Yeah.
And it cannot happen. But they will
Hence the
continue.
lottery system.
That's right. Hence the lottery system. You know what I'm saying? You got tons and tons of people that's paying into it. But no one is really winning.
Right.
Every now and then they tell you this person wants on and so forth, but they don't tell you how much they have taken in.
Right.
And that those returns.
Right.
And that's the grand illusion. So it makes better sense for us to say, you know what? It ain't about all us trying to become rich, personally rich. But how can we develop a system within this particular system that allows us to develop some community wealth? Wherein a group of us can become wealthy enough to take care of us, and then we can begin to do business with Africa, because that's the key to the future. For African people, we got to do business with Africa. We cannot bank solely on this capitalistic European system. I know we have been intoxicated by it. I know some of us are drunk on it. But this is to our detriment. Because if you pay attention to this system, it's eating and it's eating and it's eating. It's consuming everything. It's gluttonous. This thing right here is going to die.
Yes.
But you talk about illusions, and I'm listening to you, and I'm just like, everything is connected to maintaining that.
That's right.
Because when you talked about needing certain things, and then being rewarded for borrowing, I think about even where they're pushing the college thing, right? Big time. And then you have this idea that we have to get certain things by a certain age. All of that is a part of the illusion that's being pushed. And it really is just to maintain the system. So I'm listening to you, I'm just like, everything is connected to it.
Yeah.
In one way or the
That's the
other.
catch. Everything is connected, and it all goes back to us being culturally disorientated. Because you think about it, in most cases, you got some families that might have 5 people in the house, and all of them may have a job.
Yeah.
But since we were so culturally disorientated, we probably grew up in such a strained relationships that we just hate each other. We want to get away. When in reality, if we could take the income from all those 5 people and made it work for all 5 people,
Exactly.
you stand a better chance.
Exactly.
But since we didn't really know how to develop and truly maintain family the correct way, we grew up with all these insecurities. We grew up feeling abandoned. We grew up feeling hurt. We grew up feeling like our mothers didn't love us and fathers didn't love us.
No
So,
trust.
no trust. When we
Yeah.
get a certain age, we want to just get away.
Yeah.
But see, the further we run away from us, the deeper us end up in this system. See, it doesn't benefit us to go away from us in this land. That doesn't work for us. We think it does. You know what I'm saying? Because we are fed up, we don't trust each
A
other.
whole lot of us
But
think
we
it
have to
does.
develop means and ways to reorient our behavior and develop trust systems.
Yeah.
And develop trust systems so we can begin to do things together.
You hear people say it all the time. That's too many black people over there.
Yeah,
You
or they
know,
laugh
or-
at the Mexicans when they ate in a house.
In a house,
But then
and
you
then they
look
got 2
2 to 3 years
restaurants.
later, they balling. All 8.
Collective, working collectively.
Yeah, we didn't even dig into the debt surrounding college tuitions
Yeah.
and things of that nature. That falls right into the
Mhm.
mortgage debt and
Yeah.
everything else.
Which is another illusion.
Yeah, but they pushing into which is now trillions of dollars.
Mm-hmm.
So they actually need you to be in debt, college wise, to prop up this whole system monetarily.
Yes.
Because it depends on you taking out them loans.
Yeah.
The system itself is based on the debt.
Yeah.
That starts out with the treasury notes.
Yes.
It starts off there. It tells you it's a note or the bond for the most part. You know what I'm saying? Like even if you're dealing with the bond, it starts there.
Which is a private entity.
That's right. It starts there. You
The
know what I'm
Federal
saying?
Reserve.
Yeah, it starts all right there. You know what I'm saying? And it just comes down. It's the whole setup. Everything in this land is pretty much ran by the banks. You know, with the big banks that pretty much orchestrated the Federal Reserve Act in 1913. It's all linked to that.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? The War 1812 was linked to that. That was always the power. That whole war that they was fighting, the quote unquote Americans and the British, the War 1812, that was about banking. You know what I'm saying? And everything that followed that was about banking. Even now what they define as being the quote unquote the Civil War is linked to banking. Linked to banking and interest rates and stuff like that.
Even now.
Even
Today,
all that, yeah, it's all
wars
that.
today.
So this is what we're dealing with. So we live in a time period where we have allowed people to create a system based on debt, but then they create the illusion that you are advancing. But the more debt you accumulate, right, the greater they benefit, and the deeper we go in. So you think about, you talking about market 270 million people. So let's say you got 200,000. That's in some degree of debt. But just split it in half. Say you got 100 and something thousand people that's in some form of debt. The people who are in debt don't benefit from being in debt. The ones that's creating the debt benefit from it.
Yeah, of course.
So you gotta think if there's a true benefit behind debt, because everywhere you look is that they're pushing this idea of owing.
I think I'm sitting here and I'm slightly nauseated because this discuss. It does. Anytime I talk
That's
about
so many
this, yeah. But I'm just thinking about the education system, for one, which is really just indoctrination. Because by the time you reach 18 and you've passed through, that normalization process has already taken place. It's already taken root. This is how it's supposed to be.
Right.
This is what I'm supposed to do. So by the time we reach 18 years old, no one is questioning. We're just participating in the system.
Yeah.
So would you say, like, starting from maybe kindergarten all the way up, isn't that what they're preparing children into adulthood to do, to just be participant of the system
Yeah,
and maintaining it?
Education, wherever you find it at, is about socialization, first and foremost. I don't care where you find it at. Even African people, our education is our socialization. You always socialize your membership of your society to benefit the society. So when you create this quote-unquote educational system in the United States of America, that's socialization. So if you go from pre-K to PhD, right? That's about preparing you to function well within our system to benefit our system.
Right.
Every now and then, you always gonna have some individuals who just break it in their own little way.
Yeah.
But the majority don't break it. The majority are truly caught and trapped in that mindset and that way of thinking. They can't. All they know how to do is benefit the system with their degrees or whatever level of education that they may have.
Right.
Right. Even the folks who manage or happen to break away from the system, that benefits them too in the long run. I'm thinking about the prison industrial system and how they prepare the children in school for those who are the quote unquote knuckleheads or the rabble rouse, the ones that don't fall the line, tote the line. They prepare them for the prison industrial system. And in that system, there's a peonage or what other things I was looking at, servitude, where now you're working still
For
in
free.
benefit
Free
of
labor.
the system for free labor, and not just for the system itself. I mean, well, not for the government itself, but for private industry.
Yes,
Fascinating.
you have the private industry on one side, but to a large degree, what most people in society don't know, I'm glad you bring the prison system up, is that on another scale, it's a grand scheme like this. Like in the state of Maryland, you have over, the last I checked, it was like 39,000 inmates. We're talking about just in Maryland, 40,000 people, right? And they shipped off to these counties, let's say Baltimore City. You ship them off to these counties. And what happens is that when they do the census, they count those people in prison. But although, like I spent 13 years and 9 months in prison. So every time when I was in Hagerstown, Maryland, Washington County, when they did the census, I was counting for them. So they get money for those of us. But we not there.
Right.
So we're not there for real. We housed somewhere else.
Okay.
But you count us on, and then when they start coming down, they get the money because you're saying we're part of your population. So that's another one of the things that they wanted. So what it is about, the true thing is about how to benefit, how to exploit everybody within society.
Yeah.
So those of us who paying debt out here, we getting exploited one way. But those of us who ain't bump that, we're going to try something else. Then they're going to arrest them, and we're going to get them this way. No one is going to be out of the system in terms of how we're going to exploit them. You know, so we got to be very, very clear and very careful. I'm going to quote George Jackson. He made a statement to his younger brother one time. He said, talking about us, he said, we must be extremely careful because one misstep will cause us years of grief and suffering without relief. And that is the truth. So no matter what we do as a people, we must be extremely careful. We must think differently about what we do. We must respond differently and react differently if we are not going to be caught up in this system.
Wow. Wow. I have so many questions. I heard you lecture once, and you said that you're not interested in becoming rich. That's not one of your goals.
No, it's not my personal goal to become rich.
Can you explain
Why not?
why that is? Because you have every ability to be just that. But why is that not your?
I think
one of
because
your
we are looking at it like this. I think that I'm gonna clarify that on the air. It's not my personal aspiration to become rich. My aspirations is for a community of people to become wealthy.
goals?
So I'm more so focused on community wealth rather than individual wealth. Because if I go out here and I start chasing, trying to become personally rich myself, I'm going to deprive someone else. See, that's how this system is set up. In order for those to have, somebody can't have. And we got to the best of our ability, right? We got to try not to perpetuate that. You know,
Yeah.
it's tricky within a capitalistic society.
Yeah.
But the more we go get, the less some of us have. And one thing about having a whole lot, you don't have an interest on trying to give back to a whole lot of people. Like most of the black people that's billionaires, man, they don't have an interest in trying to give back to raise us up. Because you start justifying why another person don't have it. You start saying things like, well, I went out here and worked hard and got mine. You start justifying exploitation because you're trying to figure out ways to maintain what you have gotten. But you have gotten it at the expense of your brothers and
Of
sisters.
course. Yeah.
And we gotta acknowledge that. So I think it makes better sense for a community of us to try to make sure the community is okay,
Yeah.
rather than one of us trying to make sure one of us is okay.
But Imhotep, so for the people, because you hear this all the time, if I'm going to help my community, I need to get myself.
How
I
many
need
people
to
do
have
that?
enough.
How
A
many
lot of
people-
people say that.
How many people do that though? I'm 47 years old. I know a whole lot of people that said that. How many people who actually does that?
Yeah.
So I know I had money. I sold a whole bunch of dope before. I know what money does.
Right.
I used to travel up and down 95. Sold dope from New York to Baltimore all over. Right? I'm telling you, I sold dope when you can sell and make $10,000 to $15,000 a day. I'm telling you, in the 80s. Right? I know what money does to people.
Right.
I've seen it.
Right.
I've tasted it before, right? When you say I want to get this because I can help everybody else, when you start getting it, you're less inclined to help everybody else.
Do you think competition has something to do with that? Does that hurt our advances? The whole
You
realm
mean
of
us?
competition.
Competition-
against your brother and sister, are you competing against?
Yes.
I
Yes,
think
in
because
business.
we live in a society that tells us it's about competition, but it's really not about competition. That's the reason why, if it was a quote-unquote society based in true competition, you wouldn't have monopolies. They wouldn't be able to monopolize and stuff like that. So the monopoly makes it impossible to compete. So the thing about competition is an illusion. However, we don't understand that, so we begin to compete with each other and we harm ourselves. When we can figure out ways to go in together and make out better. We got to figure that out. That's what we got to do. We got to figure out how can we, if we're not going to build one big thing to work for all of us, how can we create ways where we still can kind of work together and minimize some of our overhead? You know, we got to start thinking about how can we do it together some kind of way.
Yeah.
Because if each of us keep trying to do it individually,
Yeah.
we will be in this mess 100 years from now.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know,
Right.
and whatever you are allowed to achieve personally, all you're gonna do is leave it for your family. They're still gonna be in the same mess, right? So we got to figure out how can we get out of this mess. What can we begin to do that's going to expedite getting us out of the system.
Right.
That's what it's about.
It's so much in what you just said, because it's we do have the mindset as to where we can get more with less. And when I say more with less, I mean if I can just use a couple of people, that way I don't have to spread the money out too much, and that way I get more for myself. Or if I can use my sister or brother to advance my car so that I can make the money. We see a lot of that happening, and I guess as you're talking, I'm struggling with the idea of how does someone get from that mindset of being individualistic to actually being focused on being rich as a collective, because meaning that if the community is rich, then I am rich. How does one transition from that? Because that sounds like a task in itself.
It is a task in itself. So there's a terminology that's been utilized for many years now called re-Africanization, and many people use that terminology, and that pretty much speaks to the reorientation of our mentality. And several years ago back, Baba Baruti began to use the terminology clarity, and I think that's what we need to think about. How do we become clear as to who we are? I think the problem is that we don't know who we are. We don't know our ways. Since we don't know our way, we adopt another way. So I think we have to be willing. We have to be willing to allow, if we don't know the way, to allow someone else to teach us the way.
Yes.
All right. I put a post on Facebook a couple of weeks back, and I was just saying how our situation is extremely complex, and you're not going to resolve a complex situation confused, right? And that's what we have been trying to do. We've been using our limited information, our limited knowledge that we have been allowed to gain within this society to fix the problem that this society created for us. It doesn't work. We need to begin to rely upon those who are clear on our ways and on our problem to get us through this mess. And that's what has to happen, because it's serious in terms of how they have turned us inside out, in terms of how we perceive and see ourselves and how we relate one to the other. That's deep. And that's the reason why we can't come together.
Yeah.
And the reason why we're not really worrying about our community. We talk community all the time, right? Because that's something to say. But we're not really thinking in terms of community. When you think in terms of community, you're talking about Ubuntu. I want for you what I want for myself. That's what this comes down to. And I know if I wanted to be out here and move and advance in this capitalistic society, I can do it. Because I know my abilities, I know my capabilities, I know what I'm blessed with. I know how I have been blessed. I can do it. I choose not to do it. I'm not saying I'm not doing anything detrimental to my family, but I choose not to just keep on chasing this dollar.
Yeah.
Because we can't be motivated by money. You got people like you reach out to people, you try to get people to come in and do little things with you, and the first thing they want to do is how much you gonna pay them. I believe people should be compensated, but in some instances, we gotta know, man, look, we're in a messed up situation. Sometimes you can't always be compensation.
Right.
There has to be a double standard when it comes to us.
Yeah.
All the other people do it. Don't keep talking to me. I'm just being professional. Professionalism, my butt. When are you going to really do something for the community? Everything can't be locked to $1 bill. When are you going to do something? When are you going to get out and help us get out this mess? You want to lock everything to $1? We're never going to get out this mess like this.
Yeah.
And that's the problem.
And I find we actually lose sight of our own missions and purpose and blessings when we do that, because you're blocking sight. Your sight is blocked for the dollar.
That's right.
As opposed to going on purpose. And the dollar will come. But we can't see past that because
We're infected by
the
capitalism.
fear of lack.
Yeah.
We fear not having enough. It's interesting.
And I'll add to that real quick. And I'll add to that, this for my listeners. We must be very careful of those that's always speaking black or speaking African, but always want to link it to $1 bill. Now, I'm not saying that people shouldn't be compensated. I'm not saying that people should be able to take care of families. But when you're trying to get out this situation, we say war is being waged upon us, then everybody got a responsibility to soldier for us, to warrior for us, everybody on some basic level. And it can't be always based on $1.
Good teaching. Well, on that note, we're going to pause for the cause and talk about some of the things that we do right here at Everlasting Life on an ongoing basis. This is what I call your culture hub. It is a vegan Restaurant and Lounge, and as you can see, Brother Imhotep and his family in Baltimore, they own a vegan restaurant as well, but that doesn't stop us from collectively coming together and doing things together. No competition here in that realm. Everlasting Life, again, is a full-fledged vegan restaurant and lounge, but so much more. We do different events regularly, like on Thursdays. Each and every Thursday is Children's Night, where children eat free, as long as they're 12 and under, and here with a paying adult, they eat a good, wholesome, healthy meal for free. But not only that, they come together with other children of their age group in the lounge area. It becomes a big playroom for them. So bring the children out each and every Thursday evening from 6 to 8 p.m. Following that up is our dinner and a movie. I myself host that event every Friday from 7 to 9 p.m. We air a different documentary or movie, something centered around us as a people, something you don't normally or readily hear about in the mainstream. And then we have a full-fledged discussion about what we just saw. This Friday we're showing it's a documentary called Urban Roots. It's about the family over in Detroit and how they took all that vacant lot and land and didn't wait for the government to tell them to grow their own food, and they started to create a system of a food system right there in Detroit. So they took something that looked like a wasteland and looked like no hope, and they brought hope to the society. So again, that's Urban Roots. That's going on this Friday from 7 to 9 p.m. After that, we do what's called the Black Wall Street Renaissance. Every first Saturday of the month, we open up the lounge area for different small business owners to come out and produce their wares and their things of that nature, and you can shop. And then we open the stage up for different performances or lectures or entertainment, and that's free. That goes on each and every first Saturday of the month from 12 to 6 p.m. The month of December, we're doing a full winter solstice shopping bazaar. Each Saturday in December will be open for vendors, and that's from 12 to 5. So come on and shop. The goal is to circulate the money within our own community. So if you spend your goal is to do some Christmas shopping this season, holiday shopping, consider shopping, taking some of that money or all of that money and shop small and shop local with some of the vendors. There's a lot of different events going on this time of year that you can shop with your own. So consider doing that and keeping the money within our own community. Marketplace, the third Saturday of every month on a regular basis, there's another health marketplace right here from 11 to 4 p.m. That's every third Saturday of the month. Okay, so we're going to go back into the discussion at hand. And for those who are just tuning in, we are talking debt slavery with Brother Imhotep Fatiou and China in Africa. Talk as it relates to creating debt and creating debt bondage. From what I understand, China is making a strong move and strong hold in buying up a lot of land and building a lot of things and taking a lot of the natural resources and creating over in Africa.
In the Caribbean too, by the way.
In the Caribbean too? Yeah. And some of the people on the continent are nervous about that. They're saying that, now here we are again, indebted to another group of people because from what I'm understanding, China is building a lot of things that the Africans want. And this trade-off is, okay, well, we'll give you all this money and we'll build all these things for you. And again, like a mortgage, after a certain amount of time, we just need you to pay us back with interest.
Well, as China is in Africa, what I would like to add is that the Chinese been in Africa for a very long time. Chinese was a part of enslaving Africans in China, but most people don't know that. So it appears as if what China's doing is relatively new, But China have been doing that for a very long time, and it speaks to what I was saying earlier, because what happens is that the situation is so complex. So Africa's being ravaged. You ravage the country, you rape the country, you take all the resources from it, you colonize its people, you miseducate the people for a very long time, and then at a certain period of time, then these people come into some form of independence, which is nothing but neo-colonialism.
Yes.
So we have to deal with this neo-colonial stage, and then we get other people that's coming into positions of power who don't understand African indigenous ways of government. So what we tend to erect governments similar to these foreign nations. And we're trying to do things the way we think that it's supposed to be. We're using their model.
Yeah.
Like most of the governments that we see in Africa are modeled after European
Yes.
nations, right?
Right.
So that further creates a complication. And so now you got this society that has its troubles, it has its problems, but you don't have all your indigenous ways, at least at the governmental level. So therefore, the people are truly not prepared to move through a process of reconstruction the way that we should. So therefore, we begin to rely upon other people that's coming in. So we think it's about industrialization because we're listening to the world.
Right.
We're going to the United Nations. We've been a part of these conversations. We're hearing globalization, industrialization. We're hearing people talking about well, Africa got to come up. It's scientifically behind. They need to catch up and things of the nature. We start buying into all this narrative, but it's not our narrative.
Yes.
Right? So you begin to buy into that narrative. You begin to believe that you need these other people to do for you what you possibly could do for yourself. Would it be a little bit harder? Yes. Would it take a little bit longer? Yes. But will you be free in the end? Yes. So I think a lot of times what we do is that we compromise and we sacrifice our freedom for expediency,
Yes. Yes.
and that's what's taking place. And this is the reason why that stronghold is happening the way that it's happening. But it also speaks back to those of us that are not in Africa that's watching it. We got to figure out ways to get involved in Africa to help try to prevent some of this stuff. We just can't watch it. We got to figure out how can we start linking up, who we can start talking to. We got to get in. Because if we were bringing the resource that we have access to in the diaspora, if we was bringing that to Africa, it wouldn't be a necessary need for them to deal with other foreign people.
Yeah.
But since we're so culturally misorientated over here, we're not thinking about investing in Africa. But we should.
Right.
When it'd be much easier to invest in Africa. You know what I'm saying? If we can, the same way everybody else is going across seas to manufacture stuff today in different places, we can begin to manufacture right in Africa.
Right.
And then, you know what I'm saying, sell back in the USA. We can do these things if our minds were where they're supposed to be. If these millionaires and billionaires who said they wanted to be rich to help us, truly was trying to help us, they would do that, right?
Right.
All they want to do is live in Hollywood somewhere.
Like what's his name?
You
Is
know?
what's that one guy name? Akon?
Akon.
Yeah, he's
Yeah.
making attempts here and there.
Right.
I mean, you don't really. You have to search for the news, but it's
Yeah,
he's trying for the most part.
Trying, yeah.
You know,
But
this-
even he has China backing, money
Yeah.
backing from China.
That's right. Because of, like I say, it goes back to how we're thinking. It goes back to our level of clarity. We believe we need other folk to do for us what we can do for ourselves. We believe we need.
Yes.
Like we say things like that. Well, we can't do it by ourselves. We think we.
Yes. That the whole, I know it's going in a whole different realm, but the voting thing comes to my mind when you say that. You know, we think we need other people.
This is why it's important
Real quick.
to vote into office.
I'm going to add this real quick
Right.
to make an example. There's a great documentary out called The Coconut Revolution. It's called The Coconut Revolution. If you can get your hands on that documentary, you watch it, and you'll see how our people who fought a foreign power, it was fighting the French, and as they began to push France out and to do for self, France said, well, you know what? Like always, they'll take everything. You know what I'm saying? So what these people did is they did not go back and beg them for anything. They looked in their land and saw what they had and said, you know what, we're going to do for something. They used the coconut. They figured out how to make the coconut to build houses. They used the coconut to generate
Where
their
is
cars. It's somewhere in the South Pacific.
Oh, okay.
You know what I'm
Okay.
saying? But the point is, you can do for self. It's going to be a little harder. But if you say, I don't want to deal with these people, we can do for self, you can do for self. Because everything we need is always present. We just got to be willing to go through a process to do for us.
Good teaching. And
The Coconut
Revolution.
Coconut
Is this a new
Revolution.
documentary? It's old.
I don't know. I can't say if it's
Okay.
It's not new.
It's not new.
No,
Okay.
I watched it probably like a couple of years ago.
The Coconut Revolution. Let me put it in there. Uh-huh.
As I hear you talk, what comes to my mind is culture. Culture. It's like we're missing that vital part.
Yes.
Because I think that that's kind of like a foundation of, you know, with everything else stem from, because we're miseducated because we don't have our culture. You know, we're going about another people's way of life because we don't have our own culture. You know, China is in Africa now doing what they do because we're not sticking to our own culture and way of life. So tell me, what is that accurate?
No, yes, you 100% accurate. This whole thing that we're dealing with is cultural aggression. Everything about the European way is them aggressing against the African culture. So when they say things like, "Well, y'all don't speak correctly," you know, that's cultural aggression right there. You know what I'm saying? Because if you know anything about how languages are developed, language is developed based on climate, topography, it's based on geography. All that develops that way. So if you take a people and you move them around particular ways, right, based on where they at, going to determine how they speak.
Of course.
Like that. So no, we're not going to speak and say things the way that you say things. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? We're not. It's going to develop according to how we need for it to develop, so we can be clear with each other.
Yes.
So when you study when you study language, you'll see that there's a logic to how we speak and why we speak in most cases. That's why we say they might tell you don't end a sentence with a preposition, but in most cases, most black people will end the sentence with a preposition because it makes more logical sense to us. It's not about us not being able to learn what you're teaching. We can learn it very well. You know what I'm saying? But the way our mind process it, it doesn't make sense in our mind.
Naturally.
Naturally,
Yeah,
it doesn't make sense. So that's what you're dealing with.
Right.
I had no choice but to really figure that out and understand that for myself as someone from the Caribbean. You always come into, and it's people that look like me they use it as an insult.
Yeah.
You know, you don't even speak proper
Yes.
English. We do that to each other.
Yeah.
And I had to learn culturally, history,
That's
right.
you know, different dialects based on where you live. And for me to be comfortable, and there are going to be times when I get passionate,
Yeah.
that I'm just not going to code switch. And
Yeah.
I'm going to talk the way I do.
Even the
you know?
even the names, good point. Even the names we give our children, sometimes we have a tendency, we'll lash out at each other and we tease each other for how Shaniquas and all that kind of stuff. And it's like, well, when you really stop to really think about it, it's just a natural way of African people attempting to maintain their
That's
culture.
exactly what that is.
But we beat each other back to the European.
That's right. That's exactly
Culture.
what that is, and we should appreciate that.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? That's us. That's trying to retain something.
Yeah.
That's something on the inside of us.
We don't
that's
even
killing us.
understand it ourselves.
No.
That's what's taking place when you see stuff like that. Because there's a time period when we didn't use those names,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
It's a time period we just said Kenneth, John, Smith, Anthony, just strictly saying that. But when you get to the 70s, coming to the 80s, and out through the 90s, we see the change because something is taking place. Ancestrally, we are trying to sustain and maintain and retain who we are. You know, but we are forever being culturally aggressed upon. So we're being made to think that everything we say and do is inferior, is a negative. Everything is a negative, and we begin to do that. Those amongst us that's so thoroughly brainwashed, we begin to do that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, going back, 'cause we did steer a little bit off of the topic. You can, like I said, tell this brother, he
I
goes
know.
so many different directions. What is a susu?
Great question. It's a susu is an I like to say African concept, but most people are going to say West African. But I think my research, I see there's something we've done throughout the continent, and what it is a process, and it varies depending on where you at. But what it is a process by which you create a collective account in terms of finances, and is utilized for the benefit of a family. And in some societies, it's done like this. You might take, hypothetically speaking, let's say, make it easier so we can grasp it. You might take, say you take 20 people. You say 20 people, what we're going to do is we each going to give $100 a month for 1 year. At the end of that year, that pot, we're going to give it to Alkemar. So Alkemar can take that and do what she want to do with that, right? But it doesn't stop, it keeps going. You know what I'm saying? It keeps going in. Then at the end of the next year, it goes to someone else. For the most part, it just moves around.
People do that now.
Yeah.
They call it something
Yeah.
a pot hand.
Yeah.
I don't know what it's called, but yeah, because my
Well,
sisters haven't been involved in stuff like
But
that. Okay.
that's an African
Okay,
concept, right?
yeah.
So this is kind of what we do with PLM, the susu. So we did it kind of like, I'm gonna take mine, none of that. You know what I'm saying? Everything we build is for the community itself. And I'm the founder of PLM. If I get upset and get mad and get weak at some point, and I'm talking about, well, I'm done, I'm leaving, everything I put in, it stays there.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't about me. I've done everything that I've done for that entity right there. So that's how we do it. So that's more so what it's all about. creating a pot of funds that you leverage for the benefit, creating a pot of funds that you leverage for the benefit of a family or a community.
Yeah, we attempted to do that recently in my own family, and I brought the idea together and we worked it out. It's like 8 of us core, and but it didn't last long.
No.
What I found was the goals. Everybody didn't have the same goals in mind.
Yeah.
Maybe I ask you off topic because I want to go into why you think that is, but
I think I'll answer that question. One of the reason it works in Africa is because the people that's doing it answer that question. One of the reason it works in Africa is because the people that's doing it are coming from a cultural base.
Mm-hmm.
So culturally they have the same values. So the reason why we struggle over here is because we're so culturally misorientated. So when we bring people together, we're not bringing together people with the same values, the same goals.
True.
So that's why. So one of the things that I did in understanding that before we started focusing on putting money together, I spent a significant amount of years making sure I built people's minds up. So it's a little bit longer,
So,
right?
yeah.
But it shows longevity.
Yeah.
As opposed to just saying, we gotta get money. We're never gonna move well with our money if we don't get our minds right.
that's right.
And I know a lot of times we keep on saying we gotta focus on economics and economics. No, we gotta focus on how to get people mentally and spiritually strong and culturally grounded. Because if none of those pieces are in order, we're never gonna do right by way of our money. It's just not gonna happen. So I understood that, so I focused on building us up here first, giving us some type of cultural awareness, giving us some type of similar values. Then it was easier to get us to put money together.
Even as a full-fledged adult, because from what I understood is that like the first 7 years of a child's life is crucial. So whatever you put into them within the 7 formative years, that's pretty much who they become. So is it like if somebody who's just like bad with finances, just aren't good at all as an adult, are you able to turn them around?
I think some people can be turned around. In most cases, what I've learned with people that's bad is they have bad habits, social habits.
Okay.
So no one consciously wants to squander their finances. They just don't have the skill set and the techniques to not do it.
And the discipline.
Yeah, that's what it is. So it's the habits.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, how do you help people develop those habits and the discipline? Because once that's in place, they can do those other things. And so that goes back to Eva Pelly character. So right now, like case in point, most people don't have any things that they define as being moral infractions. So you gotta spell those things out. This is a moral infraction. You don't do this. You don't do this. You don't do this. You don't do this. And over time, group-wise, we hold each other accountable. And what happens is our bad behavior, it transforms into good behavior. Our inappropriate behavior becomes appropriate behavior. And then the longer you can behave that way, that increases your discipline.
Okay.
So Imhotep, as far as discipline, because I heard, of course, you have to change the mindset first, or else people are going to bring their old ways into, or someone else's ways of doing things culturally into what you're trying to do. Now, and then discipline, I'm realizing more and more, it's a big issue, big struggle for our people. How can one begin to develop that discipline in certain areas of their life? Does that need to happen in isolation, or does it need to happen as a collective where you have some accountability in place?
Look at it like this. That's a great point you asked. In most situations, when you think about a person that's doing martial arts, right? If you think about a person that's doing yoga, if you think about a person on a basketball team or a football team, that's all those things are designed at some levels to develop discipline, but it's collective. It's all collective. So what I try to get people to realize is that our ancestors were people who done things as a community. And so when we understand what the community standards are, right, what the community are going to stand for and not stand for, then you have a choice. If you're going to be in this community, then you must conform to the community's standards. And the community needs to know that. And when you're not upholding the standard, the community is going to deal with you. We're not going to beat you down or anything like that, but we're going to find out what's going on with you. Why are you struggling in this particular area? And try to work with you through that. In most cases, what happens is this, what I realized in my research and just dealing with our people, we don't have convictions. We don't have convictions. We're not convicted to anything. So for us, you know what I'm saying, we're part of something momentarily. It's in the moment. It's the feel good. And so what I like to get people to do is like through your culture, begin to develop the things that you are going to be convicted to. Like your convictions, your deep-seated beliefs. Like for me, family is a deep-seated belief. If you go back and watch every single DVD I've ever done, You're never going to hear me not talk about culture. I don't care what I'm talking about, right? Because culture becomes a deep-seated belief of me, of mine. I know how important culture is, right? So that's a conviction. So on the basis of that conviction, right, then I commit myself to it. And that commitment show up in how consistently I carry it out. And it's the consistency that births the discipline. So you got to start with your conviction. What are the things that are deep-seated to you? You know, is it family? Is it one woman, one man? You know, what are the things that means a lot to you, right? And then you commit yourself to those things, right?
Is your convictions rooted in your purpose or your passions and your purpose in life?
I'm gonna tell you where most people's passions come from. They pay attention to it. Most of our passions comes from some type of experience in our life.
I agree.
Most of the things that most people are passionate about
You go back.
is linked to some experiences in their lives.
Interesting.
Right? But most of them don't pay attention. You start really thinking about the things that you're passionate about, right? It's linked directly to some experiences. But the experience gotta be placed in context. Right? So you gotta identify that experience or experiences and then contextualize them culturally. You know what I'm saying? Then purpose is boom.
Wow.
But you see that, yeah, you see that sometimes when you go back, you're like, you know, someone becomes a teacher. And it's like, I've always wanted to be a teacher since I was 5, you know, but somewhere along the line they forgot. You know, but when you go back, it is connected to whatever your experiences are.
Interesting
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah.
Wow.
Time.
Oh yes, we're sorry. I believe we have run out of time. Well, real quick, how do you in 2 seconds? How do we become financially free in a society like this?
Oh wow, financially free. I think the only way we can become truly financially free is to build sovereignty. Everything else is just a band-aid. And we can have strong band-aids, we can have not so strong band-aids. But culture freedom for financial freedom for African people is predicated upon African sovereignty.
Wow. All right, this is Imhotep. Back to you. Please tell them about your books.
Oh
You
yeah.
have-
So I bought 3 of my books today. So you know, my latest book is the African Manhood in the 21st Century.
I don't have that. That's
That's the
brand
third one,
spanking
right?
new.
Yeah, this is the last one I just written.
Wow. Excuse me.
For African men, read it, get it. This one right here for those of you that's trying to understand something about revolution, get it, read it. This black book right here for those of you that's trying to understand what the struggle is, what it's all about, how to build movement, how to be successful and effective. Read this book right here.
What's your other book?
I misplaced it somewhere. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So you do have 4
I got
books.
4, yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Where can they find your books?
Well, they can find my books at Everyone's Place, or you can inbox me on Facebook at mhotep.c52. You can go to my website. I keep forgetting this website.
Uh-oh. Is it new?
TheFirstUrbanPhilosopher.com.
Okay.
You have another book there. Did you want to speak?
Well, this is Michelle. This is his book. I didn't want to leave it on the table. This is the new Jim Crow
Okay.
Yeah.
that deals with mass incarceration.
Yeah.
And pretty much it talks about how we move from one state of incarceration to another state of incarceration.
Yeah, she broke that down brilliantly. Brilliant sister.
The first urbanphilosopher.com.
Yes.
Okay. All right, family. That is our Empower Hour. Please subscribe to all our channels. We are on YouTube under Miss Free the People. We're on Facebook under the name of the show, which is the Empower Hour Talk Show. eLife Studios. You can find us there under eLife Media. There's a lot of different ways to catch our program live from 2 to 3 p.m. or on YouTube for any playback videos. Thank you so much, and until next week, take care of each other. Peace.
All right.
All right.
All right. Let me get off of these live streams.
You got it?
Hey Bob, Tony said hi.
Okay.
Don't forget to post it. You like to hit and walk away. That one I don't understand.
Oh,
Well, we got most of it.
All right.
I don't know
What happened now?
what happened.
How do I stop this?
It's for eLife.
Okay.
Because we saw when the screen
Hey,
is
I'm
black.
trying to-
Well, I had to turn that off because I'm losing power to this pad, and I don't know why it's not getting power, not getting charged up.
How do I stop this?
That's what I was gonna ask you, Alcama. That's what I was wondering if you know how to do it. Is it the same as
Girl.
posting?
I have no idea.
I'm gonna need you to play around with this in private.
I know, right? Because we are still live.
Yeah.
I don't know how.
She's
I'm,
using the YouTube live.
Okay.
okay,
Yeah,
maybe the
play
X.
first.
Let me see. Share?
Yeah.
So y'all got Facebook and YouTube?
No.
Well, she just started the YouTube live. She
I don't
said
want
she
to
likes
exit
it.
it.
So she's gonna have to figure out how to use it.
Say
Ooh.
stop stream.